Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to get into my theories about the McDonald's insider trading that I think is happening and happened. We're going to break that down and explain to you how the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. You see, the richer that you get, the more that you can manipulate the media to trigger buying and selling. And if you think this is just a right-leaning issue or a left-leaning issue, you're sadly mistaken, even though the media seems to be controlled by the left, and it is for the most part. Both have a deal with the devil to continue to make money out of thin air by manipulating headlines to trigger people to buy and sell. Let's get into today's show. I'm just going to quickly check in with you guys. Looks like it says some kind of error here, but we're just going to keep going because it sounds like you guys can see and hear me. So we will attempt, let's see, let's try this. Maybe we'll refresh this. See if this plays. It's not playing, whatever. We're going to keep going with this. Is everything all right before we keep going? Let me check in with you guys. There's Max, Appalachian Homegrown, Lorraine Ray, Leslie, Jody. Thanks, everybody, for showing up today. Looks like everything's fine. Now, I'm also going to show you guys some clips from Captain America Winter Soldier, in which Skynet artificial intelligence policing is featured. Now, this has been a common theme on this channel, exposing the fact that artificial intelligence is essentially building our prison. It's pre-crime. It's the very root of pre-crime. So we're going to break that down today as well. So let's first start with this McDonald's stock thing. Now, I did some research on this, and here's my theory on what possibly happened. Check this out. Now, this graph shows what happened to McDonald's after Trump served the French fries and then the E. coli outbreak. Now, we're going to take a close look at this because it actually demonstrates how insider trading and how media manipulation causes people triggers them to buy or sell. And then the people that are behind the media manipulation profit off of it. And it's actually relatively easy to do because human behavior is so predictable, isn't it? Now, here are the dates here. As you can see, this is October 21st. Okay. And let's track back the events and how they went down. Because first, Trump served the French fries, didn't he? And a few days later, there was the E. coli outbreak mentioned in the news. So the stock remained steady and even jumped a bit on Monday after Trump served French fries on the Sunday. So Sunday, he served the French fries. Obviously, there's no trading on Sunday. And then on Monday, the stock actually jumped a bit from where it was on Friday. So that's called the Trump bump, right? That was all the conservatives that went out and said, ooh, salty French fries sound good. And they all went out on Monday because they were reminded of the nostalgia of McDonald's French fries. So they went and the stock jumped a bit. Then the news of the E. coli outbreak hit. And look at what the stock did after this. Boom. You can see it here on the graph. See if I can make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Okay, that's better. So here you see where it hit here. And now you know how all this works. Now this is a noticeable drop. This is a drop you can bet on, can't you? So here's the little weekend bump. And it's a tiny bump, but it's something. Now I'm going to explain to you how all this works. Here are the dates of everything and how it went down. Here you see this is the 18th. That was the Friday. The close was 3/16/56. Then on Monday we had $3.14 and 89 cents. I'm sorry. So it did drop a bit, a tiny hair, but as you can see here, it pretty much remained steady throughout the day. And then 10/22, that was Tuesday. Stock maintained itself pretty much. And then the news of the outbreak started happening the 23rd. And then it just, from here to the 25th, it just fell off of the charts here, as you could see. So why would they do this stunt? What's the whole thing behind this? Well, number one, even if Trump thought the stock would bump, and which he probably did, just because of the Trump effect, right? The Trump bump. We all saw this with the economy. As soon as everyone knew Trump was going to be elected, all the promises he made gave the economy hope, even though a lot of those promises never came to pass. And so that automatically gets people investing back in the stock market. They really believe that whoever's president will affect the economy in positive or negative ways, even though there are no major swings in the economy, are there? Poor people are still poor, still working 40 hours a week. Rich people are still getting richer. And all in the middle is just more regulations, more taxes, more fees, more policing. That's pretty much the only thing that changes. Now, number two, how else does this work? Well, I looked up shorting the market, and this is how it works. Short selling. The most basic way to short sell is basically the short seller borrows an asset, often a security such as a share of stock or bond, and quickly sells it. The short seller must later buy the same amount of the asset to return it to the lender. So this is a borrowing game. If the market value of the asset has fallen in the meantime, which it did with McDonald stock, the short seller will have made a profit equal to the difference. So this is how short selling works. And by Trump simply drawing attention to McDonald's name, let's say even if it was neutral or a slight loss, the overall effect is still positive. Why? Because it sears in the minds of people to remind them of McDonald's stock and McDonald's. And so that when the negative event happens, it triggers a stock sale, doesn't it? By the maximum number of people who just saw Trump selling French fries. And that's how short selling worked. And even if Trump triggered a negative effect by selling the French fries, likely to play it safe, he already had borrowed and sold the stock already before he even walked into the McDonald's. And a negative effect of that would have only played into his favor, right? Even if it did fall because of his presence there. So let's get into these E. coli onions, because that's what sealed the deal for McDonald's. E. coli onions. What happened? Taylor Farms was the name of the place. And what is Taylor Farms? Well, of course, they're out of Salinas, California. Unbelievable. Now, we'll get in more into Taylor Farms, but my guess is that most of the news that you see has stock triggers seeded into it, and is what I'm starting to realize. Because the people at the bottom are always the losers, because we are reactionary. We don't know the game before it's played. And therefore, you're just reacting to news, right? Billionaires are aware of it. And this is the big secret of how they make their money out of thin air. And it's essentially impossible to second guess their stock place, because we're not on the inside, are we? So how did Trump know that there would be poison onions? Well, there's all kinds of different scenarios that could play out here. Okay. Now, again, this is a theory. I don't know all this for a fact. I know this stuff happens. We're just talking about what could have happened. Okay. How would Trump have known that there were poison onions? Well, there's a couple different scenarios. Either they already knew that the onions were poison and had not hit the news yet, right? There's people in the hospital. The media says, okay, we'll wait until you go do your stunt at McDonald's, and then you can short sale it, or they get the news beforehand before we all get it. And then they react, the billionaires react to it before it hits the headlines, right? So if you know something already in the news that's going to happen before everybody else does, then you hedge on that. You bet on that, don't you? And this is the secret billionaire club that we're not in. Now, that's one scenario. The other scenario is that the E. coli onions are a fake story, which is completely possible unless you know somebody who is in the hospital or had E. coli from McDonald's. We can't confirm that story, can we? We're just told that 100 people got sick across the entire United States, pretty much. Or if they really wanted to do this and make it stick, they could have staged the bad onions at the multiple locations. Now, if you think all this is just thin air, well, the risk is well worth the reward when it comes to these people. They have a private stock transaction. No one really sees it. They can gain millions of dollars by being involved in something like this, and they're protected by the other billionaires, aren't they? They're taking a small risk, and literally nobody can see this coming, because how could you anticipate something like this, right? It seems completely random. Now, according to this story, they're up to, I think, 100 cases of this E. coli outbreak, and they have identified it as possibly being the onions from Taylor Farms. Now, there's a specific kind of onion, because it's not just the reconstituted onions that go into like Big Macs and hamburgers. It's the slivered onions, they call them, right? And those go onto the quarter pounders. Now, let's break this down, okay? I did some research on this before all this happened, and I was reading stories about McDonald's. There was a particular story actually with Kamala Harris in it, and they were like dogging her about pretending to have worked at McDonald's, which is the whole reason why Trump went to McDonald's, right? And interestingly, that particular article that was talking about Kamala Harris and her campaign ads of talking about how she started at McDonald's, they mentioned the word reconstituted. Reconstituted the role of, she's trying to be president. Of course, that has to be a reference to the onions, even though it's a different kind of onion. Now, this thing is a big deal, you guys. They've shut down Taco Bell's, KFC, Pizza Hut, because all of these places are sourced by this same onion, this slivered onion from Taylor Farms, which is in Salinas, California. So I did some research on Taylor Farms. And I was looking and thinking about E. coli and how E. coli works. You guys, let's all be honest. We all have forgotten to wash our hands in the privacy of our own home, right? And handled food. Why aren't people dropping out and dying in their own homes from their own E. coli contamination? Nobody ever really talks about that, do they? No one talks about all the millions of people who are, in their homes, and you're cooking food for your family or whatever, and there's no E. coli poisoning, and you don't hear about this. People hospitalized for this. Has this ever happened to any of you in your entire life? Of all the millions of times that you've made chicken and cooked for your children or your family, you accidentally put, the chicken gets on the salad. No one ever gets sick unless you hear about it from the news in these massive situations, right? So that's one observation that I had. And if you know anything about E. coli, you know what widespread contamination and how that works. And it doesn't work the way that this is playing out. It's almost as if the story is true, the onions were bathed in sewer water before being shipped. That's kind of the impression that you would get because of how widespread this is. They would have literally had to take a whole batch of onions across several shifts and literally soak it in sewer water to get this E. coli effect. You don't spread this kind of E. coli from a single worker or even a whole shift of workers who all forgot to wash their hands after using the bathroom. Now, you could say, okay, a whole batch of onions went to McDonald's, but think about this for a second. This was multiple McDonald's. They're saying what, 5 or 6 or 7 McDonald's affected by this? That would easily spread across several batches, in my opinion. I don't know exactly how these onions are manufactured, But this is just really weird, isn't it? Now, to add to the unlikelihood of the way that they're describing the story playing out, most of these vegetables are sanitized before they go into the bags that they're shipped in. I think they're shipped in like shrink wrap bags. And you look in there and they're supposed to be sanitized before they ever go into the packaging. Okay, they're supposed to be sanitized. Now, you could chalk it up. Some people thought, oh, well, maybe it's part of the procedure at McDonald's. McDonald's has a pretty stringent procedure for everything. I could see this if it was one incident and one McDonald's. I could see the point to that argument that, oh, it was some kind of procedure. No, it wasn't someone mixing meat with onions, because what are the odds of that happening across 6 or 7 McDonald's all at the same time? It had to have been, the origin had to have been the onions, which infers that either they were tainted with something intentionally, right? How easy would it be for someone with a bucket of E. coli to drop it into a vat after the sanitation process, right? It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know about you guys. Does this make any sense to you? Of course, the sanitation would kill the E. coli, so I don't get what's happening here. Now, many of you will recognize the name Taylor Farms from Salinas, and you'll recognize the name Salinas because that's where all of the E. coli outbreaks seem to originate from. Right? When's the last time we've heard of contamination from Salinas? Well, I can think of 5 or 6 things off the top of my head. Strawberries. Green onions. Remember the famed green onions? The lovely green onions that you used to be able to get at Taco Bell. I know I'm dating myself now, but for those of you in your 40s and 50s and 60s and above, you know that you used to be able to get green onions, diced green onions in your Taco Bell. And it really just set everything off, didn't it? Like the enchilada and different things with the green onions was just delicious. Well, now that is no longer available. Why? Because there was a widespread outbreak just like this. You guys, anytime they tell you not to eat something, it's probably good for you. There's probably something in onions that's actually good for you, but they're going to fear you into not wanting it. Notice how a lot of people say, hold the onions, right? What if that's from the fear? I mean, some people like onions, some people don't. But we've heard all kinds of stories about Taylor Farms in Salinas, California, and contamination. There was a lettuce outbreak. Now, some of this is actually mentioned in the Wikipedia article. Here are all the food safety recalls. Bagged lettuce, once again. How would lettuce that's bagged get contaminated when it's in a bag and it likely went through some kind of sanitation process before it went into the bag? How does that even happen? How does that happen? And over all these years of these safety food recalls and the contamination, wouldn't the CDC have figured this out by now? Wouldn't they have gotten to the root of how this actually happened and been able to circumvent it? These are all dead giveaways, in my opinion. Like, they could have figured out a way to sanitize the food. They could have made sanitization in a certain procedure for that mandatory, but they haven't. So this is really weird, isn't it? Now, let's hop off of that. Those are my theories on short selling and how it works. And this is why I do not invest in the stock market. I haven't in probably a decade. Okay, I used to have a 401k. Cashed that out a long time ago. I just saw the game. I saw how it works. And I've seen people that I know and love lose hundreds of thousands of dollars because the Bible says seeking riches will only stab your body all over with many pains. Okay. If you have enough in life, you should probably be happy with that. I'm learning to be happy with what I have. And I'm blessed. But the minute we start trying to edge up or try to figure out a way to get more, that's when we lose more, right? Now let's hop off of that and get into this domestic target artificial intelligence in this Captain America movie, Winter Soldier. Now, this was a logical next step for me in decoding the Captain America series because I first decoded the first Captain America. So I said, okay, maybe I'll decode Winter Soldier. Because some of you had mentioned that in the comments. You're like, you need to decode Winter Soldier. So I'm like, all right, I will do this. And lo and behold, something strange. Remember Palantir and Peter Thiel? Notice the IE. The IE, which is the sound and also the letter combination that we're also familiar with. Remember I before E except after C. That was like the rule in spelling when you spell words. And I was like, what does that mean? Because we have Palantir, and I know Palantir isn't spelled with an IE, but it's got the sound, the E sound, and teal. Well, here's another IE. Ready for this? Shield. What was Shield? It's the name of the organization that was responsible for worldwide security in Captain America Winter Soldier. It was an artificial intelligence that was embedded into it that uses biometrics to target threats. Watch this.
After New York, I convinced the World Security Council we needed a quantum surge in threat analysis. For once, we're way ahead of the curve.
The satellites can read a terrorist's DNA before he steps outside his spider hole.
We're going to neutralize a lot of threats before they even happen.
These new long-range precision guns can eliminate 1,000 hostiles a minute.
We're going to neutralize a lot of threats before they even happen.
Thought the punishment usually came after the crime.
We can't afford to wait that long.
Who's we? By holding a gun to everyone on Earth and calling it protection. This isn't freedom. This is fear.
S.H.I.E.L.D. takes the world as it is, not as we'd like it to be.
We compromised, sometimes in ways that made us not sleep so well. But we did it so that people could be free.
Hydra was founded on the belief that humanity could not be trusted with its own freedom.
You can't make this up. Humanity cannot be trusted with its own freedom. Hydra was the name of the organization that basically got in like a parasite into S.H.I.E.L.D., which is basically the Terminator scenario. It was a bunch of these aircraft with all these guns that could use artificial intelligence to target whoever they wanted. This is why I do not believe voting is real, because they already feel this way, that humanity cannot be trusted with its own freedom. Okay, we already know this. Now, a prime example of how we already know this is how they keep trying to shove global warming down our throat. Right? They call it the number one threat. And they know that 3/4 of the people don't give a crap about it. Okay? Why? Because most of us are Christians. And we know that God made promises to us about this earth. We also know that the billionaires are the ones feeding us the crap that they say is destroying the planet. If you want to save the earth, okay, it started with the plastic bottles, guilting us into plastic bottles that they make. Then don't make the plastic bottles. I don't think anyone would object if they passed a law that said, okay, all of the manufacturers, no more plastic bottles. Everything has to go in hemp bottles now, right? That biodegrade within, a week in soil. I don't think any of us would say, okay, no big deal. Fine. Yeah, that's better. That way I don't have to worry about where my plastic bottle goes. But they won't do it, will they? They won't do it because they're hypocrites. They're hypocrites. And this is the big red flag to most people, that they don't really give a crap about the environment, because there are a million simple things that they could do to help the environment just in the consumerism and what they give us. But they won't do it. And a lot of us feel like, okay, God said, fill the earth, be stewards of it, fill the earth, which tells us there should be plenty of room on the earth, right? until Jesus comes. So God knows the timeline. He's in complete control. We also know what the Revelation says about the earth. Nowhere in there does it says we're going to run out of resources. And it does say that man is ruining the earth. But again, that goes back to the billionaires. And it says Jesus will come. So we already know there's going to be a new earth. So none of us really care what they're telling us, right? We don't care because we don't believe it. If you're a real Christian, then you don't believe what they're saying. Because we already know how it's all going to end. And it isn't going to end by us leapfrogging off of Earth onto other planets. It's not going to end with the things that they say. Otherwise, that would be talked about in the book of Revelation. And it's simply not. So, they keep shoving these things down our throat, don't they? So, they don't trust us with our own freedom. Because true freedom would be, hey, 80% of the vote says these people are full of it. And okay, we'll just have to go with the vote, even if it means the end of the earth, right? But they won't. And that's the dead giveaway. So, let's keep watching here. He mentioned Hydra.
Humanity needed to surrender its freedom willingly. What we did not realize was that if you try to take that freedom, they resist. The new Hydra grew, a beautiful parasite inside shield.
Parasite inside shield. And there's your answer right there. The Hydra parasite inside shield.
After the war, SHIELD was founded, and I was recruited. And when history did not cooperate, history was changed. For 70 years, Hydra has been secretly feeding crisis, reaping war. Once the purification process is complete, Hydra's new world order will arise. Hydra created a world so chaotic that humanity is finally ready to sacrifice its freedom to gain its security.
This facility is biometrically controlled, and these will give you unrestricted access.
Pre-crime, biometrics, them intentionally seeding chaos so that we beg for them to lead us. We give up our freedoms. They spell it out. They're spelling it out. It's we who are the ones that aren't awake to it who think it's just entertainment, but it's actually not. Winter Soldier released 10 years ago. Now, if you're still not convinced that this is a thing, look at the story that just broke. They're talking about this. This is from The Guardian. The Terminator, at 40 years old, did James Cameron see into the future? This article just came out. And of course, there's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they talk about all the different parts of the Terminator franchise. And if we've actually gotten to where they said we were going to get to from 40 years ago. And a lot of it hit the nail right on the head. Some of it has not happened yet, but they're basically saying of all the science fiction movies, this one was the most accurate. Wow. So it's a thing. Skynet has become self-aware. Palantir, Lavender, artificial intelligence, seek and destroy software, connected with satellites and drones, GPS, facial recognition, and all they need to do is turn it on. And it can find any threat. This is why I laugh. I don't laugh. It's actually kind of sad because the people that are trying to use force to resist, they're going to just basically be a meat grinder. It's going to be like a meat grinder. You don't resist with force. You resist with knowledge. The number one thing you can do is help people to wake up so that they don't become part of the problem when all this begins to hit. Now, let's hop over into some of these other headlines, because speaking of artificial intelligence, how are they going to power the artificial intelligence? Well, you've all heard by now. We've talked about this a couple times. Our nuclear power. Remember Biff, Back to the Future? And there's a famed scene where he's standing in front of Biffco, with two, cooling towers from a nuclear facility. Well, this is what Trump promises to do. And make no mistake, even if Trump isn't elected, Kamala Harris will do the exact same thing. They're two sides of the same coin. She'll do a bunch of nuclear power plants. Okay. Mark my words. Whoever gets elected is going to do the same thing. Now, they are saying now that nuclear power plants is what will drive artificial intelligence. So again, we're digging our own grave. Let's read a little bit of this here. It says, nuclear power stocks are soaring amid the AI energy push. Here are 7 names to watch. Tech giants like Amazon are striking nuclear power deals for their AI data centers. So again, it doesn't matter who's elected. If Kamala's Amazon and Microsoft wouldn't have invested all this money unless they already knew what the plan was going to be, you guys. These are the very same companies who are telling all of us to vote for Kamala Harris, right? Amazon and Microsoft. This proves to you that they already know what's going to happen. They wouldn't be investing in these power deals unless they did. The nuclear power resurgence is driven by clean energy demand and AI's soaring power needs. These nuclear focused do you see how Trump's solution also fits into this? This quote unquote clean energy? You see how it's bipartisan now? It has nothing to do with choosing one side or the other that's going to secure the future we want. It's what they want. Both sides. Now, I'm not opposed to nuclear power, but what I am opposed to is when the nuclear power comes online, they're saying, oh, we got plenty of energy now. We've got plenty of electricity. You don't need gas anymore. That's what I'm opposed to. These nuclear focused stocks have soared this year amid an ongoing nuclear renaissance. The nuclear power industry is undergoing a renaissance as demand for clean power soars across the country, partly driven by the soaring energy needs associated with artificial intelligence data centers. You guys, we don't even have enough power in our grid to keep the lights on. And yet, on top of that, they dumped electric vehicle mandates and rebates, driving electric vehicle purchases. And now artificial intelligence is going to be attached to the grid, and already is. Mega cap technology companies, including Amazon, Microsoft, and Alphabet, have inked nuclear power deals to feed their growing power needs as AI becomes a bigger part of their business. One utility company is even restarting the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant after inking a 20-year deal to sell the power to Microsoft. Oh, by the way, Bill Gates is firing up some of these power plants. Wait, I thought Trump didn't like Bill Gates. Are you awake? Of course, they're all friends. 3 Mile Island, located on the Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania, was the site of the country's worst nuclear accident in 1979. Meanwhile, Amazon has led a $500 million financing round for a company developing modular nuclear reactors and purchased a nuclear-powered data center in March for $650 million. So huge investments. They already know that we're going to go nuclear, literally, regardless of who's president. One of the fastest ways to address climate change is transitioning our society to carbon-free energy sources. Nuclear energy is both carbon-free and able to scale, which is why it's an important area of investment for Amazon. None of this is going to go away if Trump gets elected. Mark my words on that too. They're still going to keep phasing out carbon. Now, Trump will say, drill, drill, baby. And, oh, yeah, let's do more gas and oil. He'll say that, but this is what's actually happening on the back end. Okay. Now, let's hop off of that. Let me check in with you guys. We'll get into some of these stories. There was a lady cooked alive in an oven. Gotta tell you that story. That's at the end of the show today in Walmart. She got locked in the oven. Unbelievable. Cooked the lady alive. Can you imagine the horror of that? Wow. Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Sunday. I was out working on the car this morning, so I was a little bit late to the show. I cannot get this fuel pressure regulator off the back of my fuel rail. I just can't get to it. And I started tearing off the valve cover, and I'm like, I'm done. It's just not coming off. So I'm going to put everything back together. I did find some sludge inside of my throttle body. So I cleaned all that out. I'm going to adjust the timing. I cleaned the MAF sensor. Some of you don't have no idea what I'm talking about, but some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm going to put it all back together. And if the truck doesn't run right, I'm just done. I'm done. I'm tired of throwing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars in labor at a vehicle that's, now 20 something years old. I'm just not going to do it anymore. Just doesn't make sense to do it. It's the labor that gets you, because the mechanics now are charging $200 an hour. Some of them, if you want to take it to like a dealer, that's what you're going to pay. And if it takes them 6 or 8 hours to find the problem and fix it, and then they throw parts at it, you're just done. And I know enough to be dangerous with cars, and that's about it. I can pull a car apart, put it back together. I can clean things. I can replace certain parts that are around the periphery of the engine. I've done my own air conditioning unit. I did that by myself. I replaced some bearings in some of the wheels, belts. I can do simple stuff, but you got to literally, even the mechanics don't know what they're doing. They think they do, and they start replacing parts, and then cha-ching. Anyway, let's get back to the show here. All right. What else is going on, you guys? Well, there's these weird creatures and organisms popping off. And I think, not that I believe some of this stuff, but I think it's programming. They're preparing us for a world so that when all this nuclear stuff is all around us and we start seeing, weird organisms, it's not going to be such a surprise. This is the New York Post. Slimy orange alien egg pods discovered in a river, and they're spreading rapidly. The story just broke on Friday. It's giving sci-fi nightmare. Just in time for spooky season, a bizarre slimy orange bag said to resemble a glowing dinosaur egg has been pulled from a river. While scientists say they know what it is, a colony of bryozoans, slimy little hermaphrodites that cluster together to create a dinosaur egg-like pod, they're puzzled as to why the creepy crew was literally hanging out in a canal in Holland. Look at this. You guys, this looks like something out of Alien, like the Alien franchise, like something's going to pop out of there and like just disgusting. This is in the Netherlands, and they found this creepy colony at the bottom of a canal. The phenomenon does not normally occur in the Netherlands. The big bag is formed by several animals together. At a certain point, they form a colony, and different colonies can then stick together again. A bag can be 2 meters in diameter. That bag then attaches itself to something. Volunteers found the grotesque blob clinging to a floating island in the canal. Experts say that colonies can grow up to 7 feet in diameter. Wow, that's just, can you imagine swimming in there? This thing attaching to your leg or something? Just disgusting. Let's take one more look at this thing. Whoa. That is creepy. All right, so what else is going on? Space tourists. So, I've always been a proponent of, if we really want to know what's up there, we got to get up there, right? But there's all these glass ceilings, pun intended, to where the normal person can't get up there. The normal person of average income is not allowed in space. And it's usually, they'll say it's financial. Oh, yeah, you don't make enough money. You can't, or it's going to cost you. Well, now they're sending up space tourists. And so what do? First thing they do, is they go blind. Space vision. Space tourists alarmed when vision starts to deteriorate. So now, I don't believe this story, or I kind of believe it, but let me tell you what I think's going on here. Let's read this first. Scientists are still trying to understand the toll that spaceflight takes on the human body. With SpaceX's civilian Polar Dawn mission, which lasted 5 days and wrapped up last month, we're getting an opportunity to observe the effects on more or less average humans, rather than the elite, highly trained government astronauts who are normally the ones that spend so much time in orbit. So they want you to believe that the highly trained astronauts, they don't have this happen to them because they're trained. Have you seen the astronauts lately? They're just normal people. Okay. They ain't no elite government trained astronauts. Okay. Sorry. We're not buying it. Like the two people that are stuck up there right now, or so we're told. They just look like average people. You know, the Indian woman and the white dude. They're up there in the capsule. And so here they're trying to convince us that, oh, it never happened before because they're highly trained. Oh, but now it's happening. Inexplicably malfunctioning eyeballs. This person says, my vision acuity started to deteriorate those first few days. Why do you think this is happening? Why do they want us to believe that this has never happened before to any other astronaut? Let me get your guys' thoughts on this. Now, they're saying, oh, as soon as they got back to Earth, their vision went back to normal. Everything's fine now. But what do you guys think this is about? I'm not going to read the rest of this article, but let's go back into the chat. These stories make me laugh. And what makes me laugh more is that people believe this nonsense. Let's see what you guys think, and then I'll tell you what I think is going on here. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm having a bad Nissan Xterra day. You know, the car doesn't have to get fixed, but it's just like, I was like, okay, a second vehicle is always good out in the country. And everybody tells me this. They're like, it's always good to have a second vehicle because you never know when one of your vehicles isn't going to start. So you just got to hop into the other one. And I was like, I was all excited. I mean, it'll run, it'll get me somewhere, but it's not running right. So anyway, that's why I've been messing with this vehicle. So what do you guys think this is all about? Okay, some of you said test subjects, experiments, water pressure. Here's what I think. Ready for this? I'm thinking the real story is that they want to scare people out of seeing what's up there. And so I'm thinking they might have given the astronauts something to screw with their vision. Now, to confirm my suspicion about this, again, I don't know this, but I just think that it's weird, right? They actually say that they were doing an experiment on the people and that they gave them these special, what did they call it? Contact lenses. Let's try to find that part in here. Oh, what do you think caused their vision to deteriorate? You're like sticking things in their eyeballs. They decided that this was the time. The people pay all this money to go up in this thing, and now they're going to do an experiment on them. Wow. Let's see here. What caused Potet's vision to deteriorate is likely a condition known as spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome, SANS. You know what SANS means in French? It means you can't, or it won't, or without. So they're literally making fun of them. Sans vision, or like most people know, like lettering, sans serif means letters without the little dilly bobs on them. So in other words, the typeface that you're seeing on the screen right now is sans serif. There's no little accents on the letters. Okay, that means without serifs. This is unbelievable. This is believed to be the result of a microgravity environment which causes the optic nerve to swell and fluids in the eye and brain to shift. Why have we not ever heard of this before from any other astronaut in the history of astronauts? Because I don't believe it's real. Poteet said his vision quickly returned to normal once he got back on Earth. But as SpaceX engineer and the mission's medical officer Anna Menon told CNN, the effects, if unaddressed, could be disastrous in the long term. If you think of the future, there's thousands of people living in space, and they eventually, after 9 months travel, you get to the surface of Mars, and a huge percentage of people have vision changes that make them unable to do their work, unable to read their procedures. That's a big problem. You think? So what are they doing? They're scaring normal people out of actually wanting to go up there to check this out. Now, what did they give them when they went up on this flight? Sans is still poorly understood. All 4 crew members wore high-tech, cyberpunk-looking contact lenses to measure intraocular pressure throughout the mission in the hopes of teasing out its causes. Wow. So, it's the world we live in, you guys. Wow. Now, check out this weird cloud that appeared in the sky. Now, NASA says they saw it from space. We don't need NASA. There's satellites that see this stuff. And you go into Google Earth, you can see all this stuff. In fact, if I were to type in these coordinates, you'd see this. But what makes this cloud strange is that it appears in the exact same spot every time, in the exact same shape. Now, where is this cloud at? It's off the coast of just inside the coast of New Zealand. A NASA observation satellite has imaged an oddly shaped cloud hovering above the Strathclyde region in southeastern New Zealand. A satellite image shared by the space agency and taken on September 7th shows an unusual elongated cloud nestled along a rocky mountain range. The strange-looking cloud formation often occurs in the same spot, leading locals to dub it the Terminator Pet. So they've actually named this thing. Now, they give an explanation for this. Oh, it's the weather. That's what it is. But there may be something else to this. What do I think's to this? Well, let's take another look at this picture. And now, let's look at some images of the film Arrival. Kind of looks similar, doesn't it? This is the film Arrival, and these pod-shaped clouds, cloud-like spaceships were seen all over the earth. They would just sit there as they interacted with them. Everybody's seen this movie. I think we just decoded this movie too, not too long ago. Huh. Interesting. Odd stuff going on, you guys. Okay, let's get into this story about this Walmart employee who got cooked alive in an oven. Walmart employee looked for her daughter for hours before finding her charred remains in the store's walk-in bakery oven. The 19-year-old found death in Walmart's bakery walk-in oven has been identified as, per a GoFundMe page, as Sasha. Wait, hold on. 19-year-old employee was found dead inside Canada's store bakery walk-in. So this was in Canada. Identified as Gurusam Kaur, according to GoFundMe. So I think she was Indian. Kaur's body was discovered October 19th at a Walmart on Mumford Road in Halifax, according to Wednesday's statement from Halifax Regional Police. Okay, so I know some Canadians are in the chat today. Have you heard of this story from Halifax? I don't know what's up with the format on that page. Halifax, Canada. Did you guys hear about this story about a lady who was in the walk-in oven? Just creepy. We'll read more of the article. I don't know what's up with the format on that page, though. Weird. Let's let this catch up. I'll be back in the chat for the rest of the show after we're done with these stories. Wow. Yeah, God has a sense of humor. So I'm out working on my truck, right? The sun had just come up just before the show. All of a sudden I hear all this noise in the leaves, right? And a whole herd of deer run past. You guys, I've been sitting in this dumb blind like almost every morning for hours and hours. I creep in there at dark. I sit in there. And then today I'm like, you know what? I'm not sitting in the blind. I'm going to go work on my truck. And the one day I'm not in the blind, a whole herd of deer run right past me. All I could do was laugh. I actually grabbed my crossbow. I ran. I've got my plastic gloves on. I run. I'm just going, are you kidding me? Because now you can hear everything because there's a lot of leaves on the ground. So anything in the forest you can hear from like a long way away. And I could see them. Their little tails running around. So I run into the house, right? And I've got grease all over my black gloves. I grab my crossbow. I go to open the door. And there's my neighbor pulling out. And he hates that I hunt on my property. He hates it. Absolutely hates it. He's like, oh, I see you got a deer feeder there. Yeah, I got a deer feeder. I'm hunting, dude. We're in the forest. What? You can't hunt over a feeder? Oh, yes, I can. Well, I never grew up like that. I go, well, sorry. This is Arkansas. You can hunt over a feeder. I grab my crossbow. I open the door, and there he is pulling, just driving right on by. I'm like, oh. So I put the crossbow down. I just don't want to trigger people. He drives by, and then I run out, and of course the deer are gone. I'm just like, whatever, God, okay. So I put the crossbow back, and then I look at the clock, and it's like time to get ready for the show. So that was the end of that. But anyway, where were we? Oh, Halifax, Canada. Did you guys hear about this? Wow. Like I tell you, sometimes it feels like nature is working against you, doesn't it? Yeah, next the deer will be playing doorbell ditch. Exactly, Carla. It's unbelievable. Now, of course, I can do what I want here. It's just I don't want to trigger this guy. Now, I will not shoot an actual gun. I could on the other side of my property, but technically you have to be 100 yards away from a structure to be able to discharge a firearm out in the country here. And he's a little bit closer than 100 yards. So now with crossbows, it's 50 yards. So I'm well within my legal right to do it. I just don't like to get on people's bad side if I can avoid it. He's my only neighbor. I don't have any other neighbors. It's like, so I figure I'm blessed that I only have one neighbor and that he's, his front door is 80 yards away from mine. Like I'm blessed, right? Most people have to live with multiple neighbors. So I'm not complaining. It's just hilarious that I go to grab the crossbow. I throw the door open. I'm trying to be quiet. And he drives right on by. And like I'm holding the crossbow. It's like I was busted. Anyway, Canadians, Halifax. Oh, gosh. I'm sure I'm going to get a message from him. Hey, what were you doing with your crossbow? Oh, I don't know. I guess I was getting busted. I guess you busted me. You can't hunt over a feeder. Yes, I can. There's different rules for different states, but out here, the terrain is so rugged and we have so many deer that they want people to hunt for them. So they make rules according to how they control your behavior, right? So in places where it's flat and wide open, where you can actually shoot a rifle like 200 yards, they don't allow you to hunt over a feeder because it gives you the advantage over the deer. And it doesn't matter if there's a lot of deer in Iowa or Illinois or Kansas or wherever else they have these rules about feeder hunting. They don't really care about how many deer they are. They mostly care about, just sabotaging you, essentially. They just sabotage you is what it is. They do the same thing with fishing. They make it so hard. They put like size limits, which makes absolutely no sense in a lot of cases. And it just, because smaller fish are going to get eaten by larger predators. So you're a predator. You should be able to catch a smaller fish. Big deal, right? So, all right. Okay, so let's climb off of that. So let's read a little bit more of this story here. The woman who was an employee, let me refresh this story first because this is not right. It's just so, look at this. See if there's any pictures of this. Baked alive, locked in an oven. Okay, looks like they're not gonna. So at least make it bigger so you guys can read what's on the screen. Now, how can this happen? Isn't there some kind of safety mechanism? Isn't there a way to escape if you're locked in a walk-in oven? You would think. And I've seen the same thing with walk-in freezers. Some of them lock from behind. So if you're in there, you're done. You're going to freeze unless somebody else comes in. We all see it in the movies. We saw it in, remember in The Shining, where they lock Jack Nicholson in the freezer? And then like a ghost lets him out or something. Anyway, this is the story. I'll put a link to the story. There's probably other stories that you can reference. You don't have to read this horrible format. There's a picture. Those lemon cakes look good. Oh boy. All right. So I made some cookies out of pancake batter. Well, not the batter, but pancake mix. I didn't know you could do that, but I looked up ingredients of what's in pancake mix, and it's essentially just pretty much flour and baking powder, which is two of the ingredients that go inside of a cookie. So I was like, okay, I'll just, because I ran out of flour. Casey, why are you making cookies out of pancake flour? Well, because I ran out of flour. So I'm like, I'm trying to make do here. And they turned out really good. But one of the pancake mixes had chocolate in it. So it's basically like a chocolate peanut butter pancake cookie. Oh, they're so good. Anyway, got off track there. Now, tomorrow, what are we doing tomorrow? Well, tomorrow we're going to get into a TV series that's so crazy that I can't even tell you the name of it. And why are we going to look at that tomorrow? Well, because it has all the same symbolism that we've identified over the last 10 years. Some of it is actually exclusive only to this channel. Some of it are symbols that other channels have covered. But essentially, they're going to mention like purple. There's purple all throughout this, mentioned by name. There's black goo. They've even got the artificial intelligence policing that we just talked about from Winter Soldier. That's all in here. And guess who else? Travis Kelce. Now, I don't know if this is his first acting role, but he's the guy who plays NFL football. Apparently, he's a natural actor because he plays a really good role. But the series is so dark, I can't even tell you the name of it. I will not repeat the name. But I will show you guys the PG version of the decode tomorrow with all the symbolism and Travis Kelce's acting debut. Now, does anyone know if he's acted before? I've seen him in commercials and stuff, of course. All of the athletes do that, but he was like acting, and he was actually really good. I was like, this is getting weird. If you had any questions about these people's allegiances, who they're aligned with, this should seal the deal on Travis Kelce. Okay. Because at first people were confused. They're like, wait a minute, he's with Taylor Swift and she's like a witch, like self-proclaimed pretty much based on some of her music videos. And then she hooked up with Travis Kelce, who's supposed to be like, he's like the Christian archetype, right? Clean cut guy, conservative. And then we're like, how's that ever going to work? Well, I think we got our answer, and you'll see that tomorrow, on tomorrow's decode. All right. I'm back in the chat, you guys. Shocking, isn't it? All right. Yeah. You can't make any of this up. I can't even believe this world we live in now. I don't recognize this world anymore, you guys. Yeah, now everybody's heard about what's going on in the Middle East. You know, I'm not going to delve into that too much. There are many, many channels covering that in depth. I tend to try to stay away from world events if I can all help it. Sometimes I do talk about them, but you guys, it's just a tit for tat. Retaliation, retaliation, retaliation. And depending on which news headline you're reading, they'll start the retaliation in response to, right? They'll start it with one side or the other, depending on what side of the fence people are on, right? And so to me, that's just silly. It's just going round and round, a cat chasing its tail. And the latest, obviously, the first Israel strike on Iran ever recorded, right? But for some reason, they decided not to take out their nuclear facilities. Why? Oh, because we don't want to piss off Putin. Because Putin said, if we do that, then Russia's going to get involved. It's just ridiculous fear mongering and endless war. And who suffers? The people. People suffer. Not the world leaders. People suffer. So that's why I don't like to get, because some people could literally talk about that all day long. And I just think it's a waste of time. So, do you think the winner of the World Series will determine who wins the selection? I don't know about that. I don't really watch a lot of baseball. All right. The latest Halle Berry. Yeah, we covered a bit of that. I think we did a mention on it. I don't know if I did any screen capture. I think I mentioned it about the umbilical ropes and all that on previous shows. We cover most of the new stuff that comes out, you guys. So if you tune in every day, put me on 1.25 speed, unless it's today, which I'm already pretty much at 1.25 speed because I want to get back to this truck and put it back together. But normally, I don't mind if you put me at 1.25 speed. On some days, you could put me at 1.5 speed because sometimes I talk really slow because I'm trying to gather my thoughts. But the information's there and we cover pretty much everything. 9 times out of 10, when someone asks me, did you hear about this or that? We'd already covered it. So if you tune in every day and put me on 1.25 speed, you'll be caught up all the time, right? Now, here's another change I made to the channel. I know a lot of people are complaining about the ads. Now, if you watch the show live, there are no ads anymore. I took those off first, okay? Next, that went on for like a while. And then people are complaining when they watch the shows back that it's full of ads. Now, I didn't realize this. I went back and looked because I never look at that stuff really. You guys, on an hour, like a 30-minute show, there were like 20 ads. It was literally like sabotage. YouTube's trying to sabotage the channel. And then I realized, well, maybe this is why people aren't tuning in as much. They can't get through the ads. So I can go in manually and drastically reduce the ads. So I go in and I got to do it manually. Like after this show, it takes me about 30 minutes. I got to go in and I'll delete 80% of the ads. So there's still some ads, but not like before, like every minute or two. I was like, how does YouTube expect people to watch videos when there's an ad every other minute? So this is what I'm doing from now on. And hopefully this will help more people tune in to the channel, watch the videos because I'm doing something about it. Okay, now this is going to directly impact my income, but I'm here for the right reasons. I'd rather have people watch the channel, okay, and not get too many ads. And so I'm going to do the right thing here, okay, even though it's going to affect my income because it's more important that the word gets out. God has already blessed me. I have what I need in life. I'm not rich, but I have what I need in life. And so therefore, we need to double down on getting the word out. Okay. So are you planning on decoding this season of From? Vet for Peace says, I started watching that. I'm all caught up on it. You guys, I will tell you the TV series From, it's just too dark. I can't even tell you guys about it. It's that dark. Even in decoding it, it's just too disgusting. These people are stuck in a town. Now, I did decode the first couple seasons, but it just got progressively worse from there. These people all find themselves stuck in a town, and there are multiple generations. They're like stuck in some kind of a time loop, time warp, okay? Some kind of black hole, and they can't escape. And at night, these vicious creatures come out, and they basically kill them off one by one. Now, they're safe if they go inside of the dwellings and they put these talismans above the door. But sometimes they'll make a mistake or they'll get caught after dark. And the way that these creatures kill the people is just, it's too much. So I do have my limits when it comes to this stuff. I'm not going to decode just straight up, horror that I don't believe has any point to it. And the series just, there's a couple basic things to decode on it, but you get too far into the story and it's just gross. There's a pregnant lady that eats like dead people. It's just weird. I'm not going to cover that for you guys because it's just has no redeeming quality to it. All right. There's a lot of other things that we can kind of focus on. Now, having said all that, the series is well written. It's, I mean, to the extent of the horror part of it, it is entertaining, but I keep watching each episode. I'm just like, I can't present this on the channel. It's just too much for most people. Okay. It's just going to put you in a bad place. Now, this series that I'm covering tomorrow, I'm giving you the PG version of it. And I highly do not recommend that you watch the series that we're covering tomorrow. We just can't. So, yeah, I just answered that question, Fatima. So, all right. What else is going on? Travis is a puppet under mind control. Certainly, it's beginning to look that way, isn't it? Just the way he acts and the way everyone is so enamored with Taylor Swift and you got Mahomes' wife hanging out with Taylor. It's like we're in some kind of Camelot or something and people just talking about it and talking about what she's wearing. And it's disgusting. It's celebrity worship at its finest. And people eat this stuff up. Do we really think that an NFL team can win straight games over and over and over? Are they that good? Are they that good? I think this is all about, you don't want to know what I really think about the Kansas City Chiefs. You'd laugh if you knew what I really thought about Patrick Mahomes and that whole psyop. It's in his name. They're trying to elevate this whole, how do I put this without getting us in trouble here? They're elevating this whole gray area thing, okay? This whole, I'm not quite sure if it's this or that thing. And there's the mixing of the colors, that's the obvious. But then there's other mixing stuff going on. In the mannerisms, in the this and the that. We already know they set people up with fake mates. We already know this. So they're trying to elevate this and look at the athletes that they're putting out there that are better. It's better than one or the other. It's better if it's both. You see how this works? And so what better way to do that than to make a team that wins every single game? I mean, this is shaping up. I mean, they're going to pass the Patriots pretty soon here. I mean, Mahomes is young. I mean, if they, I know some of you aren't into sports, but this is an important discussion. You know, this is going to go ballistics, isn't it? And then look what happened to the Patriots. Like that was pretty much self-destruction. Here he had like the model family. Literally, his wife was a model. What happens? She ends up doing her personal trainer from Brazil, I think. Am I getting all this right? I don't watch a lot of sports, but I do know the basic storylines. And so they destroyed the normal family, right? And now I think what they have is not what we think that what they're telling us, right? I don't think it's the same. And I think you guys are picking up what I'm putting down here about that. So yes, they are trying to elevate this new gender, the new gender. It's better than male and it's better than female. It's somewhere in the middle. And they're better at everything because why wouldn't they be, right? Get all the qualities of a man and all the qualities of a woman. They started this with the military, started this nonsense. And now it's dripped over into everything. It's crazy. I can't even believe it. But I think that's what's going on. We got flag football all coming online. Someone told me that the All-Star game was like flag football? Really? Time to Plant says you're already in hell. Certainly starting to feel like that, isn't it? Certainly starting to feel like that. Welcome to Clown World. It's making me wonder all these Democrats are trying to everything to get into power if they're all involved with Diddy. I believe they're all involved with Diddy, you guys. So not just the Democrats or Republicans. There's 12 pictures of Trump with Diddy across 3 marriages. We've got to step outside the right-left paradigm to understand how all this works. Okay. All these people are in with these people. Okay. It's not just the Democrats. It's not just the Republicans. It's all of them. They've got us all under the illusion that some of them are clean, but they're not. So, wow. All right. Yeah, I don't recommend those channels because they got people sports betting. All that's going to do is take you down into oblivion. If you're trying to outguess the sports and bet on that, that's not what God wants us to do, to make money. So I don't recommend that. Bad. Taylor Swift is Napoleon Dynamite. That's pretty funny. Yep, I remember that, him kissing his own son. I actually got that video taken down off of YouTube because I showed that. YouTube busted me. So you weren't allowed to show that. That was weird. Him laying down on the table and his son like crouching over him. He's like demanded a kiss and it was like on the lips. Really weird, you guys. Something is not right in the sports world. That you can see them too, kissing each other sometimes, grabbing on each other, kissing each other. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. A bunch of men running around in tights like superheroes. Now I will observe sometimes to see if I can decode parts of this stuff, but I have a whole different feeling about sports from when I was asleep. You know, I used to actually enjoy football and all that stuff. I remember my ex-wife and I would watch some of the playoff games, and then we'd always do this Super Bowl thing. Now, this was when I was asleep, but you think about the symbolism of it all, right? But one thing we would do is we would spoil ourselves with, what do you call it? Pig skins. You know, I forget what they call them, but we hardly ever ate those. But when it came to Super Bowl, we would get that and some limes and squeeze it on top with some Coronas. And that was what we did. And now I see all the symbolism behind that stuff. And it's like, of course, pig skins are unclean meats. But then there's all the other stuff involved in that. The whole pigskin football. And I had no idea back then. But this is the way our world works. Yeah, pork rinds. Yeah. Chicharrones. All right. What else, you guys? Great British Bake Off. No, never saw that. Huh. Yeah, sports are rigged. Now, we talked a little bit about this the other day. You know when it really got bad? It was bad before, but when it really got bad was once in 2018 when Trump Supreme Court pretty much allowed sports betting. And it was through a decision that the Supreme Court handed down that opened the gates for sports betting. This was in 2018. And doesn't it feel like everything got way worse after that with how these teams play and the scores and the bad calls and all this stuff? That's the problem. You can almost dial it into 2018 is when things started going wrong in sports. And now we've got teams that shouldn't be able to win every single game. Number one, you've got celebrities now that are in sports drawing attention to those teams. Okay. Which is weird to me. You never used to hear of people's mates. Think of the NBA, for instance. Do you ever remember Michael Jordan and his wife? Do you ever remember her like being, or any of the mates being famous, for instance? I mean, there was, who was it? What's his name? There was the dude from the Bulls, the weirdo guy with that wore makeup, and he like dated Madonna, right? But you never saw like her showing up to all his games. I mean, did she? I can't remember. I don't think she did. I don't remember that. This is new. It's a new phenomenon. It's all manipulation. I don't even think it's a real relationship that they have. They just tell us it's real. They're just playing. They're acting. And now it's official. Travis Kelce is now an official actor. So why wouldn't he act on the field? Yeah, Dennis Rodman. Thanks. Thanks, Speak Uneasy. Yeah, Dennis Rodman was the only person I could think of in NBA that actually dated like famous people. And everybody thought he was weird. And we all thought it was weird that he dated Madonna back then. So now all of a sudden it's all normal. And look what it did. It cross-marketed. It cross-promoted. All of Taylor Swift's fans now, or at least a good portion of them, now watch games. NFL games that they never used to watch. You see how this works? And now they're making even more millions and billions. So, all right. What else, you guys? Dennis Rodman's daughter's a good soccer player. Seal dated Madonna too. All right, guys, I want to pop off here. I've been ranting enough today. Yeah, I don't know, you guys. I'm gonna, I guess, try to figure this truck situation out. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, 7:30 Central Time. Much love, everybody. Take care.